I smiled at Vanessa. Not a big smile, just enough to show teeth. The kind of smile that could mean anything. How wonderful, I said, keeping my voice pleasant. I was just thinking about how much trust Michael must have in you. She blinked, her champagne glass stopping halfway to her lips. What? With all those late nights, all that access. I took a step closer, still smiling. The other wives pretended to check their phones, but I could feel them listening. It must be so nice to have someone who believes in you so completely. Even after mistakes. Vanessa's face did something complicated. The confident smirk flickered. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, but her voice had changed. Less champagne boldness, more uncertainty. I leaned in close enough that only she could hear me. Close enough to smell her expensive perfume and the wine on her breath. Does the CEO know about the Technova confidential pitch deck you and Michael have been working on? I asked quietly. The one saved on the shared drive under Project Phoenix. She went pale like someone had pulled a plug. Because I'm wondering if your new employer at Quantum Ventures knows you're still on our payroll while negotiating their offer. That's all in your Slack messages, by the way. The ones you sent from Michael's laptop when he left it unlocked. Her champagne glass actually trembled in her hand. I don't, she started, but I kept smiling. Have a wonderful evening, Vanessa, I said, loud enough for others to hear. Then I turned and walked toward the bar, like I just commented on the weather. My hands were shaking when I ordered a gin and tonic. I'd been planning that moment for 3 days, ever since my friend at Quantum Ventures confirmed everything. But planning something and actually doing it are different things. I could feel Vanessa's stare burning into my back. I didn't turn around. The bartender handed me my drink and I took a long sip, trying to look casual, trying to look like a woman who hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of my husband's company celebration. It started 4 months ago. That's when I first noticed the change in Michael's patterns. We'd been married 7 years, together for 9. I knew his rhythms the way you know your own house in the dark, where all the furniture sits, which floorboards creak. He was a product manager at Technova, one of those mid-sized startups doing well enough that everyone drove nice cars but not so well they made headlines. Until 6 months ago when they announced Series D funding, suddenly there was IPO talk. Suddenly everyone's stock options might actually mean something. Michael had been working there for 4 years. His shares could be worth close to $2 million if the IPO went through. He'd always worked hard. Long hours were normal. But 4 months ago, the late nights changed flavor. Before, he'd come home tired and distracted, smelling of coffee and the office's cold air conditioning. He'd heat up whatever I'd left for him, eat standing at the kitchen counter, maybe tell me about a difficult user story or a tough sprint planning meeting, then shower and fall asleep within minutes. Now? He came home tired but wired. The first thing he'd do was shower immediately. He'd pick at his food. He was constantly on his phone, texting, checking things I couldn't quite make out. And he started working late on Wednesdays, which he'd never done before, because Wednesday was when the executives played golf and the office was supposed to be quiet. I'm not stupid. I know what those signs usually mean. So I did what you're supposed to do. I checked the credit cards. I found the Uber charges. Not to hotels, though. To an apartment building in Soma. The same address, 3 times over 6 weeks. Always on Wednesday nights. The charges stopped after that, but by then I'd already started digging. I didn't hire a private investigator. I didn't need to. I'm a forensic accountant. This is literally what I do for a living, just usually for corporations, not my own marriage. I work for an investment firm analyzing companies before we acquire them. I find the discrepancies, the hidden liabilities, the things people don't want found. So I started looking. I pulled our shared calendar history. Michael had been deleting coffee shop meetings. I could see them in the archived data. Sync with V. Every Tuesday at 9 a.m. at the Blue Bottle on Market Street. Always a half hour. Always deleted within a day. I checked his Venmo. There was a payment to Vanessa Park 3 weeks ago. $200. The note said, for the thing we discussed. Vanessa was his executive assistant. 28 years old, ambitious, sharp as hell. Michael had mentioned her constantly over the past year. Vanessa thinks we should pivot the roadmap. Vanessa found this great article on product strategy. Vanessa's going to be a VP somewhere in 5 years, I'm telling you. I'd met her exactly twice. Once at a company happy hour, once at last year's holiday party. Both times, she'd been charming, professional, friendly in that carefully calibrated way that ambitious young women perfect. She'd asked about my daughter, complimented my dress, made all the right small talk. I pulled up her LinkedIn. She'd worked at Technova for 2 years, before that at a smaller startup that got acquired. Her profile said she was passionate about innovation and scaling high-growth companies. Her recent activity was interesting. She'd been liking a lot of posts from Quantum Ventures, a competitor firm. She'd connected with 3 of their senior executives in the past month. That's when I started to suspect this wasn't about an affair. I have a friend, Jessica, who works in HR at Quantum Ventures. We'd gone to business school together, kept in touch over the years. I called her on a Tuesday morning, sitting in my car in the Target parking lot, trying to figure out how to ask without giving too much away. "Hey, random question," I said after we'd caught up on kids and life. "Do you guys have anyone named Vanessa Park in your interview pipeline?" There was a pause. "Why?" "She works with Michael. I'm just curious." Another pause. Jessica knew me well enough to know I didn't ask random questions. "Sarah, I can't really talk about candidates, but hypothetically, if someone in that role was interviewing with us, and if they were far enough along that they'd met with executives, I'd be concerned if their current employer was also in the middle of an IPO process. Because that would raise some questions about proprietary information and non-compete agreements." My stomach dropped. Hypothetically, Jessica agreed. And hypothetically, if that person's current manager was also involved in whatever project they were pitching to us, that would be even more concerning. I sat in my car for 20 minutes after that call, staring at nothing. Then I went home and started looking at Michael's laptop. He always left it open on the kitchen counter when he showered. He'd never changed his password from when we first started dating. It was our anniversary plus my birthday. Sweet but stupid from a security standpoint. I found it in 15 minutes. A folder on his Google Drive called Project Phoenix. Inside were pitch decks, financial projections, product roadmaps, customer lists, everything you'd need to pitch a competing product to investors. Technova's entire strategy for the next 2 years, packaged and ready to go. The file permissions showed Vanessa had full edit access. The version history showed they'd both been working on it for 3 months. The most recent changes were from 2 days ago. There were also screenshots of Slack conversations. Michael and Vanessa discussing which customers they could bring over after the IPO, which engineers they could poach, how to structure equity so they'd both have founder-level stakes. And there, buried in a subfolder, was an offer letter. From Quantum Ventures to Vanessa Park, Director of Product Strategy. Start date: 2 weeks after Technova's projected IPO date. Salary plus equity worth potentially millions if Quantum Ventures' own IPO went well. There was no offer letter for Michael. I sat there, staring at the screen, and the whole thing clicked into place. Vanessa wasn't Michael's partner in this. She was using him. She'd get Michael to build the entire competitive strategy, gather all the proprietary information, identify all the customer relationships. Then she'd take it to Quantum Ventures, get the big job, and Michael would be left holding the bag when Technova discovered what he'd done. If Technova found out before the IPO, Michael would be fired, lose his shares, probably face legal action for breach of contract. He'd be unhireable in the industry. Our daughter's college fund, our retirement, everything we'd worked for gone. And Vanessa? She'd be safely at Quantum Ventures with a senior title and Michael's work in her portfolio. I took screenshots of everything, backed them up to my personal drive, emailed them to myself, saved them 3 different ways. Then I closed the laptop and sat at the kitchen table, thinking, I could confront Michael right now. But what would that solve? He'd deny it, or defend it, or somehow make it my fault for not trusting him. The problem wouldn't go away. Vanessa would still be there, still pulling strings, still putting our entire future at risk. I could go straight to Technova's CEO. But that would definitely blow up Michael's career. Even if they didn't press charges, he'd be done in the industry. And our daughter, Emma, was 4 years old. We needed Michael's income. We needed his health insurance. I couldn't just scorched earth our whole life because I was angry. No. If I was going to do this, I needed to do it right. Strategic, not emotional. Precise, not destructive. The company's pre-IPO celebration was in 3 weeks. A big rooftop party, fancy catering, all the executives and their partners. The The perfect venue. Public enough that Vanessa couldn't make a scene. Intimate enough that the right people would notice. I just needed to wait for the right moment. The 3 weeks crawled by. Michael kept working late. He kept texting. He stopped asking about my day. We'd have dinner with Emma, get her to bed, and then he'd disappear into his home office for hours. When I tried to talk to him, he said he was stressed about the IPO. I should be more understanding, couldn't I see how important this was? I smiled and nodded and kept my mouth shut. But every night, while he was locked in his office, I reviewed the evidence. I watched the Project Phoenix files get updated. I saw Vanessa's Slack messages get more confident, more possessive. Can't wait till we don't have to sneak around anymore. 2 more weeks and we're free. She really thought Michael was going with her. He thought they were building something together. Neither of them knew I was watching. The night of the party, I spent an hour getting ready. I chose a navy blue dress, elegant but not formal. Pearl earrings, subtle makeup. I wanted to look like someone who belonged there, someone you wouldn't underestimate. Michael was already dressed and pacing in the living room when I came downstairs. "You look nice," he said, distracted, checking his phone. "Thanks." I grabbed my clutch. "We should get going. Don't want to be late to your big night." The party was on a rooftop in Soma, with views of the Bay Bridge and the city lights. String lights everywhere, champagne flowing, a DJ playing something upbeat but not too loud for conversation. The whole executive team was there, plus all the senior managers and their partners, maybe 100 people total. I spotted Vanessa immediately. She was wearing a red cocktail dress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment, her hair in an elaborate updo, working the room like she owned the place. She was talking to the CEO's wife, laughing at something, completely comfortable. Michael tensed when he saw her. "I need to go say hi to some people," he muttered. "Of course." I smiled. "I'll get a drink." I watched him make his way through the crowd. I watched Vanessa's eyes track him, watched her excuse herself from the CEO's wife and drift in his direction. They didn't talk directly, but they orbited each other, always aware of where the other one was. I got my gin and tonic and found the other partners. There was Lisa, married to one of the senior engineers. There was Jennifer, the CFO's wife, who I'd met at a few events. We made polite small talk. I asked about their kids. They asked about Emma. We talked about the IPO, about how exciting it must be, about what everyone would do with their money. And then Vanessa drifted over. "Ladies." She had a champagne glass in each hand, clearly several drinks in. "How are we doing? Enjoying the party?" "It's beautiful," Lisa said politely. "Isn't it?" Vanessa beamed. "We worked so hard to pull this together. Michael and I have been planning for weeks. Well, I did most of the planning, but he helped." She laughed, like it was a joke. Jennifer glanced at me, uncertain. "You and Michael have been working closely?" I asked, keeping my voice light. "Oh, constantly." Vanessa turned to me, and I could see the champagne confidence in her eyes. "Sarah, right? Michael's mentioned you. You're the one with the daughter. Emma. She's 4. That's sweet." Vanessa's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "It must be so hard, managing a toddler and a career." "I don't know how you do it. Michael's always saying how demanding his job is. I can't imagine adding a child on top of that." The other wives had gone very quiet. "I manage," I said. "I'm sure you do." Vanessa took a long sip of champagne. "Though honestly, don't you have her bedtime to worry about? Michael's usually so focused during our late-night strategy sessions. I figured home life wasn't really his priority anymore." There it was. The insult, delivered with a smile, loud enough for everyone to hear. Lisa's eyes widened. Jennifer looked like she wanted to disappear. I smiled. That smile I'd practiced in the mirror. Sweet, calm, unbothered. "Strategy sessions," I said. "How wonderful. Michael's lucky to have such a dedicated assistant." Vanessa's smile got sharper. "Executive assistant," she corrected. "And soon, hopefully, more than that. I'm expecting some big changes after the IPO. I bet you are." I took a small step closer. "All those late-night sessions must be really productive. What kind of strategies have you been working on?" "Oh, you know." She waved her hand vaguely. "Product roadmaps, market positioning, future growth plans. The kind of stuff that's probably over." She stopped herself, but we both knew what she'd been about to say. "Over your head." That does sound complex, I agreed. Does the CEO know about the Technova confidential pitch deck you've been working on? The one in the shared drive under Project Phoenix. Her smile froze. Or wait, let me think. I tilted my head, like I was trying to remember. Is it called something else now? You've been updating it pretty frequently. Hard to keep track of all the versions. The champagne glass in her hand was completely still now. Sarah, she started. I leaned in, my voice dropping so only she could hear me. Does your new employer at Quantum Ventures know you're still on our payroll while negotiating their offer? Because I have screenshots of those Slack messages. The ones you sent from Michael's laptop. The ones where you talk about which customers you're going to bring over and which engineers you're going to poach. All the color drained from her face. That's you can't. Oh, and Vanessa. I kept my voice pleasant, like we were discussing the weather. I also have the version history showing Michael's been working on this for 3 months. Which means if anyone reports this to the CEO, you're both in a lot of trouble. But I'm guessing Quantum Ventures would be very interested to know their new director of product strategy has been conducting corporate espionage. They tend to frown on that kind of thing. Don't they? She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Have a wonderful evening, I said louder now, stepping back and smiling like we'd just had a delightful conversation about nothing important. Then I turned and walked back to the bar, my heart pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. I ordered another gin and tonic. My hands were definitely shaking now, so I wrapped them around the glass to hide it. I didn't look back at Vanessa. I didn't need to. From where I stood, I could see her in my peripheral vision. She'd gone very still. The other wives had scattered, suddenly needing to find their husbands, suddenly very interested in the food table, anything to get away from whatever had just happened. Vanessa pulled out her phone with trembling hands. She typed something, then she looked around the rooftop, panic in her eyes, and made her way toward the exit. She didn't say goodbye to anyone. Didn't thank the CEO for the party. Just grabbed her clutch and vanished. The whole thing took maybe 5 minutes. Michael appeared at my elbow 30 seconds later, his face tight with barely controlled panic. What did you say to Vanessa? I complimented her work ethic. I took a sip of my drink. Why? She just texted me. She's leaving. She says. He stopped, glanced around to make sure no one was listening, and lowered his voice. She says you know something. I know a lot of things, Michael. I met his eyes. But we're not going to talk about it here. We're going to finish our drinks, congratulate your CEO on the upcoming IPO, and go home. And then, tomorrow morning, you and I are going to have a very long conversation about Project Phoenix. His face went through several expressions very fast. Confusion, then understanding, then something that might have been fear. Sarah. Not here. My voice was pleasant but final. We'll talk tomorrow. We stayed another hour. Michael was stiff and silent beside me, but I worked the room. I congratulated the CEO. I chatted with the CFO's wife about school options for Emma. I acted like everything was perfectly normal. Like I hadn't just ended someone's career with a few quiet words. When we finally left, Michael tried to talk in the car. I turned on the radio. Jazz, something smooth and uncomplicated. I hummed along. Sarah. Please. Tomorrow, I said. He drove the rest of the way home in silence. I slept in Emma's room that night, curled up in the reading chair, watching her breathe in the glow of her nightlight. She was 4 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. And I just made sure her father's stupid mistake wouldn't destroy that future. Michael was waiting in the kitchen the next morning when I came downstairs. He looked like he hadn't slept. There was coffee brewing, which he knew I needed before any serious conversation. Okay, he said. Talk. I poured myself a cup. Added cream. Sat down across from him at the kitchen table. I know about Project Phoenix, I said. I know you've been working with Vanessa for 3 months to build a competing product. I know you've been gathering confidential information, customer lists, product roadmaps. I know she has an offer from Quantum Ventures starting 2 weeks after the IPO. And I know she's been planning to take all of your work and leave you holding the bag. He stared at me. How did you? I'm a forensic accountant, Michael. I find hidden things for a living. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? It's not what you think. His voice was desperate. Vanessa and I, we're building something. After the IPO, we're both going to. She has a job offer at Quantum Ventures, I interrupted. You don't. There is no we both. There's just her, using you to do all the work, and then she takes it and you get destroyed when Technova finds out what you've done. He went very quiet. She wouldn't do that, he said, but he didn't sound sure. I pulled out my phone, opened the photos, and slid it across the table. These are screenshots from your shared drive. This is her offer letter. This is the Slack conversation where she tells someone at Quantum Ventures that her current manager is handling the technical details, but she's the strategic mind behind everything. You're not her partner, Michael. You're her resource. He looked at the phone for a long time. His hands were shaking. Oh God, he whispered. Oh God, what did I do? You made a mistake, I said. A really stupid mistake. You let someone flatter you into betraying your company and risking everything we've built. I'm so sorry. He put his head in his hands. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I thought she made it sound like we were building something together. Like it was an opportunity. I didn't realize. I know. My voice was calmer than I felt. I know she manipulated you. But that doesn't change what you did. So here's what's going to happen. He looked up at me. Tomorrow morning you're going to go into the office early. You're going to request a meeting with the CEO and the head of legal. You're going to tell them everything. Project Phoenix, the pitch decks, all of it. You're going to say you made a mistake, you got caught up in someone else's scheme, and you're coming forward before any damage is done. They'll fire me, he said. I'll lose everything. Maybe. Or maybe they'll appreciate your honesty. Maybe they'll recognize that Vanessa was the one with the job offer. You were the one who came forward. And they'll put you on probation instead of destroying your career. And what about Vanessa? Vanessa's already done. I sent her LinkedIn recommendations and her offer letter to Jessica at Quantum Ventures last night. They know she was conducting corporate espionage while interviewing with them. That offer is gone. Her reputation in the industry is gone. She's finished. He looked at me like he'd never seen me before. You did all of this in one night? I did all of this over 3 weeks, I corrected. Last night, I just executed. Why? His voice cracked. Why would you help me after what I did? I looked at him. Really looked at him. The man I'd married 7 years ago, the father of my daughter, the person who'd somehow lost his way and almost destroyed everything. Because Emma needs her father, I said. Because we have a life together, and I'm not ready to throw it away over your stupidity. But Michael, you need to understand something. This is the only chance you get. You confess everything tomorrow. You accept whatever consequences come. You get family therapy. You become so transparent I can see through you like glass. And if you ever make me feel like I'm not a partner in this marriage again, I won't ask questions. I'll just make phone calls. Do you understand me? He nodded, tears in his eyes. I understand. Good. I stood up. I'm going to wake Emma and make breakfast. You're going to spend the day figuring out exactly what you're going to say tomorrow. And tonight, you're sleeping in the guest room. Michael did what I told him. He went to the CEO the next morning and confessed everything. He gave them the drive files, the Slack messages, everything. He offered to resign. The CEO, apparently, was furious but also weirdly impressed that Michael had come forward. They put him on a 6-month probation. They delayed his stock vesting by a year. They made him sign about 17 different legal agreements. But they didn't fire him. Vanessa's offer from Quantum Ventures was rescinded within 24 hours. The word got out in the tech community faster than I expected. She left Technova 2 days after the party with a standard severance and a very cold goodbye. I heard through Jessica that Vanessa had moved to Seattle, trying to rebuild her reputation. Good luck with that. 3 months later, Michael and I went to Emma's preschool graduation. It was one of those sweet, slightly chaotic events where 4-year-olds in tiny caps and gowns sang songs and waved at their parents. Michael sat next to me, holding my hand, fully present in a way he hadn't been in months. After the ceremony, while Emma ran around with her friends, Michael turned to me. I have something to tell you, he said. The CEO pulled me aside yesterday. They're moving forward with my stock vesting on the original schedule. He said I'd shown real integrity by coming forward, and that's the kind of thing they want in senior leadership. That's good, I said. And Sarah, I've been thinking. After the IPO, after we get the money, I want to put half of it in an account just for you. Your name only. So you never have to worry about financial security no matter what happens with us. I looked at him. That's a lot of money, Michael. It's our money. But I want you to have control of it. You saved our family. You deserve to feel safe. I squeezed his hand. Okay. Are we? He hesitated. Are we going to make it? The marriage? I watched Emma climb on the playground equipment, fearless and happy, 4 years old and perfect. I don't know, I said honestly. I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. But I'm willing to try if you are. Really try, not just go through the motions. I am, he said. I swear I am. Then we'll see. That night, after Emma was in bed, I got a LinkedIn notification on my phone. Vanessa had updated her profile. Currently seeking opportunities. No location listed. I looked at it for a moment, then closed the app. Michael came and sat next to me on the couch. What are you thinking about? Nothing important, I said. He put his arm around me. I let him. Because here's what I'd learned over the past 4 months. You can't control what other people do. You can't stop them from being stupid or manipulative or overconfident, but you can control how you respond. You can be strategic instead of emotional. You can ask the right questions at the right time. You can protect what matters without burning everything down. I'd spent years making myself smaller, quieter, more convenient. The wife who didn't ask too many questions, who trusted her husband, who believed in the best in people. I'm not that person anymore. If Michael wants this marriage to work, he's going to have to live with the wife who knows how to ask the right questions. The wife who doesn't underestimate herself. The wife who will smile sweetly and destroy you if you threaten her family. And honestly, I think he's finally okay with that.